Hello, I'm Kelly, and this is Kelly Loves Books and Movies. Today I thought I would go through what I read in May and what my plans might be for June. I just have finished a quick trip, a quick little hike after work before the rain, and I had planned on doing this outside on the nice little picnic table, but it's pretty windy, so that's probably not going to work. Anyway, in June, I read. What the heck? Okay. In June, I read. I think seven. 8 books, which for me is a lot. This booktube thing really has me, working at reading, so that is a good thing. First up was Going Infinite, The Rise and Fall of a New Tycoon, which was about Sam Bankman-Fried and the whole FTX. Not really the scandal so much, because I think he was writing the book before he got arrested, or right around the time. He started the book before he got arrested. At the end of the book, he had been, I think, arrested and everything had been falling apart. But I think when he started it, he did not know that that was going to happen. Fascinating. I still have no clue about all this. I kind of understand Bitcoin, but I don't understand all the whole trading all these, it's pretty much gambling with a lot of money. And so his whole thing was their group were like these, what was it called? Altruist. Anyway, they wanted to do effective altruism. So they wanted to earn all this money to put to good causes to be able to make changes, but I don't see that a whole lot of money went to any sort of altruistic goal. A lot of it went other than, their own pockets, but and a lot of the money just disappeared. And it was a little kind of crazy because they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to put this much money and trade it here," but and it's all on the blockchain, so do you really have it? Do you not? Part of their thing too was they had I don't know, I want to say $1 billion. It wasn't that much, but they had no clue where it went. And then finally, after all the I think the arrests and people quit and all the money, someone was like, "Hey, y'all know you got this money here?" It's that's bananas. So yeah, I did enjoy it because it was a fascinating look into something I have no clue about. A lot of people say, I read some reviews on the book, say he was too nice to Sam, and Sam really didn't know what he was doing, ripping people off, and he kind of took the view that Sam was just an idiot. Well, not an idiot, smart, because he could figure out all these things to trade and everything, but not really smart in, he didn't intentionally lose people's money. But the other people are like, no, he totally did. Use your own judgment. And I don't really know, I didn't really follow the trial or anything, so I have no clue. No opinion one way or the other. Next up was, see, I went hiking and I even brought my books with. The Paris novel. This is one I got when I was in Nashville. Basically a girl or a woman, her mother doesn't really get along with her mother. Her mother dies and says here and leaves her money, but you have to go to Paris with it. So she goes to Paris, meets this woman in a dress shop and says, "You got to do this, 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 and I'll give you." So she starts to go through these steps, meets fascinating people. First doesn't really like Paris, but then, things go. Of course, she likes Paris. She loves the food. She's learning to love the food. And it's pretty predictable, but I still enjoyed it. Next up was Birding Under the Influence, Cycling Across America in Search of Birds and Recovery. So this was about a guy, he is an addict, and decided he wanted, and he was into birding since he was a kid, but through the whole addiction and college and all that kind of, didn't do it so much anymore. It's on here, I'm a little sweaty. But then he decided because the research he was working on for his job didn't go the way he was planning, so he didn't really know what he was going to do with his life. So he decided to bike, do a big year, but do it all by bike. And he basically went from the Northeast down through Florida, down around up into California, and all over the country in his big year. And he never went anywhere other than by his feet or his bike, even in places when his girlfriend visited him. Along the way, he wouldn't let her drive him places. They had to like do the bikes or walk. I don't remember his exact goal. I think it was something like 600 birds in the year. And, to see, and he had to time it. He timed it so like he was like in Texas and Florida when like there were birds migrating, so he'd get all these. Anyway, it was pretty cool. I like birding. So, and I don't have a bike, but I do like biking. And so it was a good story altogether. Next up after that was When Women Were Dragons, right? Yeah. And I pretty much read this. I read this whole thing on the way back from Dublin on the plane. Uh, uh I liked. It started out really good. I was really into it. Things were great. Yep, and my workout. But then I don't know. It seemed to go too much into wrapping everything up too nicely with a bow at the end, and I don't know. I mean, you kind of know why women became dragons in some cases, in other cases not. And then when I can't really tell you a whole lot without spoiling it. But anyway, it just got a little too neatly wrapped up. I mean, it was fascinating at the beginning. Women were becoming dragons, and at first nobody knew why, or why they were becoming dragons, what was happening. But I don't know. It then kind of turned out, yeah, I just didn't really like the ending. Next up, ooh, Tough Broad, From Boogie Boarding to Wing Walking, How Outdoor Adventure Improves Our Lives as We Age. Okay, I didn't know this existed, and I read a quick interview with her on Outside Magazine, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go get that. I may do a video about a whole separate review on this. Needless to say, I liked it. She's, I think, as the writing of the book, she was either late 50 or maybe even 60. But she went and found different older women doing outdoorsy things, hence the title, and, got to know why they liked to do it, why they did it, what benefits they were getting from it. I'm not necessarily the target for this because I'm already on board. I mean, I think it tries to it's about people who maybe need the encouragement to do such things as they age, and for me that's not really the case, but it was still good. I loved reading all the stories of the women. I loved the boogie boarding group, and I wish I had a boogie boarding group like that when I lived in Florida, but no, I was pretty much boogie boarding by myself, but I loved it. And there's one of those, like 3 pages in, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally into that. This was during the pandemic, so she was going to Yosemite and she was meeting friends, and then I think you may see, at that time, you needed reservations, and the reservation was for the car, and the friends were coming from the other end of, somewhere else, and she was coming from the other direction. And the friends had the reservation, so she couldn't get in. They wouldn't let her in with drive-in, and they were like, well, And she had a one-wheel, and she's like 50. I think at the time of that was like 58. And so she just got on the one-wheel and rode on in, and they said, yeah, it's fine if you walk on. It was like 11 miles or something, 9 or 11 miles. And she's like, well, can I take my one wheel in? And they're like, sure, why not? So she, parked her car, got her one wheel, and then I was like, I wanted a one wheel for a long time, and I always thought I was too old for a one wheel. Although I have seen a dude in downtown like a couple times, and he's an older gentleman on a one wheel, and I was like, some older people do ride one wheels. And then she was talking about taking her one wheel. And this is like in the first 3 pages. I'm like, yes, I'm getting a one wheel. Now, I probably won't get a one wheel because they are kind of expensive and probably not the top of my list of fun things to buy right now. But I should not let being older discourage me from buying a one wheel. And this book gave me that inspiration. Anyway, may do a full review and talk about it more in depth. May not. But yeah, I liked it. Go ahead and read it if you want. Next up was Morning After the Revolution, Dispatches from the Wrong Side of History. That was by Nellie Bowles, and she used to write for the New York Times. And she's pretty much persona non grata at the New York Times now. So she just basically different things what am I trying to say here? Let me read the description. A look at how some of the most educated people in America lost their minds and how she almost did too. And like, I don't know. It was interesting. Not my favorite. But you know, it was interesting reading different thoughts. Next up was 84 Charing Cross Road, which was one I got in Dublin, and I did not even notice that this is actually 2 books in here. 84 Charing Cross Road and The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. Now, I only thought it was the 84 Charing Cross Road, and that book is about, and when I picked this up I thought it was fiction. It's not that mattered, it just looked interesting, and so I was like, oh. Anyway, she wrote letters to this bookstore in London because she wanted to buy things, and then I think, at least probably since a little girl, she had always loved London, had never been there. So over the many years, she was writing letters and ordering books from them, and you know, they just developed a relationship with everyone at the store over the years. Eventually the main dude, he passes away. So then, I don't know, she asks if she could write, you know, put all the family and the people at the store, if she could make all these letters into a book, which she did, and that's the 84 Charing Cross Road. And then the next book, the Duchess book. Okay, first of all, the letter book, I was like, it was pretty good. It didn't, you know, move me one way or the other. But the other book, she finally, after her book is published, and then they want her to come to London and, you know, sign, talk, do speeches and stuff, or do talks and all that. And then she finally, because she had wanted to go to London for, you know, since she was a little girl, and it never worked out. She'd save for it, and something would come up, and so she finally gets to go. And she keeps a diary of her time there, and the other book is basically her diary of her time there. She was there, I want to say 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. And she just met some absolutely fascinating characters and got to see all the things she wanted to see since she was a little girl, and like the books she had read, the authors, where they were, and the things like that. And I don't know, that I loved. That book was my favorite of the 2, and actually it was probably one of my favorites of the month. So yeah, that is everything I read in May. In June, I think I am going to do Big Book Summer. I have a book in mind, at least to begin with. I may do more than one. There is a new book just out on the Challenger disaster, and it's pretty big. That was another one that I hadn't known it existed, and I saw it at Half Price Books when I was there. I was like, oh, it's triple stamp day at Barnes & Noble, so I will go to get it at Barnes & Noble, so I'll get my 3 times stamps. Well, I went to buy my normal Barnes & Noble, and it said they had one, and he looked it up, and he's like, oh, it's on hold. So he's like, well, they have it at these other stores. I immediately went to the other store, got it. I have a couple chapters in. It's fascinating. I have enjoyed learning about the space program since I was a kid, and since about the time of the Challenger. And then wow, 15, almost 15 years ago now, maybe even a little more. I met my friend who is a literal rocket scientist, and she actually worked on the Challenger and Columbia investigation teams. So it'll be interesting to read, and I've heard her speak on that a couple of times, but yeah, it'll be interesting to read it and then also maybe talk to her a little more about it after I'm done. So that is what I'm going to read for Big Book Summer. Um, I probably, since it's the whole summer, I probably will read another one. I have a couple other fiction books that are over 400 that I think 400 pages that I will also probably give a try, but I don't know. I'm more of a mood reader on that. Also, it's June on the Range, so I do plan on reading at least one Western, probably a couple. The first one I probably am going to read is probably going to be a Larry McMurtry book, just because I got to catch up on him. And I got a few when I was in Nashville. And so that's it. June on the Range and Big Book Summer. And then whatever else I'm going to be I honestly have about 6 things started right now. And then I got a book that had been on hold forever on the library on an ebook, so I went to that, and then I got to go back to all the others. But yeah, thanks for watching. See y'all next time.